can go, but still it needs to be approved, right, by the bank. And only once the bank approves this, right, you get your coffee. Now, this entire system is what we call as a centralized system. What is the meaning of centralized? That is, there is one point of contact or one entity that has a say on an entire system, right? So that's a centralized system. Now, this is where we come. This centralized system is what is slowly being moved away, and blockchain is stepping in to create a decentralized ecosystem so that the ownership moves from one person to multiple people. Right? It's not just one person who's controlling everything, but there are multiple people who are slowly coming into the picture. Right? Now, why is there so much hype around blockchain, right? Why is it called a trust machine? It's because it helps us create trust when we exchange value between people or computers, right? Basically, when we exchange value online, right? People online don't know each other and they don't trust each other, but they trust this network called the blockchain, right? That's where it is stepping in as a trust machine. Now, the same example that we saw previously, the coffee shop example, right? So think of this entire banking system being replaced by this blockchain network, right? So then when it comes to a network, think of it like how powerful the internet is, right? It's a huge network of computers. That's all it is, internet. Similar to that, blockchain is also a huge network of computers, also known as nodes in the technical terminology, but if you can just think of it, it's similar, right? So it's a huge network of nodes that is helping you do the validation and verification. In the previous example, just the bank is doing the validation and the verification, so everything is centralized. Whereas in a blockchain, these network of nodes, which is multiple people together, are doing the validation and verification. So if you want to pay on the blockchain, you come to the blockchain, you initiate a transaction. This entire network helps you do the validation and verification, and then voila, you get your coffee. Right? So this network is helping create a disintermediation by creating trust. Right? So that's why you would see it being called the trust machine, decentralized ecosystem. So this is what it is doing. Now, let us see an actual example of how this is happening. Okay, before that, how did blockchain start? What is the origin? Now, the question might be, why do we need to change this system, right? Why this existing system is working very well for everyone, right? But why do we need to change this system? The origin story kind of starts in around 2008 when there was a huge financial crisis in United States of America. There were a lot of banks, investment banks, which declared themselves as bankrupt. Right now, when these investment banks declare bankruptcy, it is very difficult for people of all economic classes to be able to retrieve their money back. Right, people almost lots of people put their faith in banks, put their faith in these centralized agencies, and put their savings there, right? So when the 2008 crash happened, there were a lot of people, lot of banks, agencies declared bankruptcy, and people lost a lot of money. As I'm sure you might be aware, there was a huge recession. People lost a lot of jobs, right? And of course, there were a couple of lives also that were lost, unfortunately, because they couldn't provide for their family, right? Now, from this incident on, there was one person or a group of people, we don't know the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto yet, wrote this paper, published this paper called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Right? This paper talked about a technology called blockchain, which can help in transferring money or transacting digital currencies called cryptocurrencies online, right? So this explained, detailed out the network. A network called the blockchain network can be created on which we can safely transact digital currency, right? And these digital currencies described on this paper are now popularly known as cryptocurrencies because they follow the principles of something called cryptography. So cryptography, in simple words, can help keep your message a secret, right? We call this process encryption, and also it can help you decrypt the secret as well. So if you for privacy, etc., we use cryptography, right? Popularly in the technology domain. Now, this is where, if you think how come this industry has become suddenly, there's so much money, because these digital currencies are something completely a new concept, right? So digital currencies, as we speak, is a type of currency, or cryptocurrencies are currencies that are being created everywhere. There is value that is being created everywhere. That is why there are suddenly so many opportunities that have come in this ecosystem, right? So why should you care about Web3? Why should you care about joining this ecosystem? Because you are at the forefront of a different type of financial ecosystem where value can be created based on an idea, right? If you want to build a product tomorrow which is based on cryptocurrencies, you have the ability to create your own cryptocurrencies, and then those cryptocurrencies will gain value from the product itself or from the idea that you're working on, right? And suddenly you've got money, right? You are producing money, you're creating money. This is the kind of opportunity that we should look for. That's why this is a space where we can learn and earn as well, right? We can learn and grow so much. The space is just getting started. Things are just getting started up over here. So this is a great opportunity for you to get into Web3. And and even if you're not bothered about the earning part, right, there's so much learning, there's so many new things, because everything is just getting started right now, right? It's just 2010, right? I mean, 2010, a slice of pizza was sold for 10,000 BTC. Right now we can't even imagine like how much the slice would is worth now, right? So, to give you a quick example and an idea of how the technology itself might work, right, and what is the core problem that it is trying to solve. So, think of a village that you have. The village has a bunch of residents, right? Now, residents will do a lot of transactions, right? People may go buy coffee, they may go buy grocery, they may take their dog to vet, they may lend and borrow money from each other. The stores may lend and borrow money from each other, and all sorts of transactions happening in this village, right? And there is one accountant whose name is Alex, who's the accountant for this entire village. So Alex keeps a book, a record of transactions that are happening in that village. Who's given money to whom? Who's lent money to whom? Who's borrowed money from whom? Who's doing transactions at which shops? What are they buying? For how much are they buying? When did they buy? Right? All of this data is there in Alex's ledger, and Alex is solely responsible for writing all of this data as and when he gets this information. Right? So think of Alex as a moving person who's getting all these transactional information and putting it on the ledger, on his ledger. Right? Now, if we want to create transparency in the ecosystem, right? Many a times we don't know what financial institutions are doing, how are they putting our money, where are they keeping our money, where are they investing our money. So, of course, that is another, point of conflict with financial institutions, that because they're centralized, they don't really offer as much transparency, right? Now let's say that Alex were to imitate the blockchain and say that, hey, I'm going to make everything transparent, right? So Alex puts up all of the transactions for the village to see in chronological order, right? So
Listen,
now the
why are
village has
these
got a
new
little
people
more
not
trust in
getting that
Alex
welcome
because
message that
he's being
initially we were
transparent,
getting?
right? Everybody knows what's happening in the village. So all of the transactions are
Is it?
transparent and put up at a place,
Oh my
right,
god.
in
At least
chronological
put,
order for everybody to
like,
see.
why don't you just put that and
Now,
just
the
write hi,
potential
welcome? What
problems
we are
with this could
writing,
be
at least
that
let's put hi,
Alex could
whatever
become
the
sick,
person, and welcome
Alex
to
could
the
go on a
Phoenix Village.
vacation,
Let this
or
be at least an
Alex could
automatic
suddenly become
automated
greedy,
message. No.
right? What happens in these scenarios
Okay.
when the whole village has put their trust in Alex and Alex just runs away, right, with the whole ledger book or the money that has been given to him? This is the problem. This is the inherent problem with any centralized ecosystem, right? that just because there is one person, one node, one server, one machine that is controlling all of the data, that is controlling all that is happening in the ecosystem, it is really risky to put all of the information. And basically, what happens is when that particular server, that particular point of contact goes down, the whole system or the whole ecosystem crashes, right? So this is what happened with banks in 2008, right? When banks shut down, basically all of the people who had put their money lost their money, right? Because the banks did not have any money to pay back to anyone. And this is a concept that the distributed networks, another concept in computer science called distributed networks, is trying to solve by removing this decentralization and creating a distributed way of transacting, right? Of networking. What happens in the distributed network in this scenario is instead of the book or the ledger only being with Alex, a copy of the ledger is given to everybody who's a resident of that particular village, right? Now what happens is even if Alex runs away with the book, there is a copy with everyone, right? And if somebody tries to manipulate Alex to change a particular entry, in this case of distributed networks, this can't happen because the same ledger is with everybody who is a part of the village, right? Every resident has that book. So magically, so you can think of it just hypothetically that every time a new transaction happens, every time Alex puts down in his book, the same transaction gets updated magically in everybody's ledgers, right? So everybody has a transactional record of everything that is happening in the entire ecosystem, right? So now this kind of ecosystem is very difficult to hack, right? Even if one node, one computer goes down, there are all these other computers that are part of the network that will continue functioning, right? And the ecosystem does not go down, right? So the power is distributed. The power is not just with one centralized entity, it is with everybody. It is with everybody who's a part of the network, right? The power is distributed. This is the concept that blockchain broadly leverages. Distributed networks is definitely one of the concepts. There are several other things that come into play. There's cryptography, or yeah, let's the next slide. So there's distributed systems and networks that we have already seen. There's cryptography. That means the data that is there on chain. So you saw the pieces of paper that were put up by Alex, right? That data itself is encrypted, right, using cryptography. So it's not like everybody knows like who's given to whom, right? That comes in on an encrypted manner using a concept called hashes, right? So that's one of the important concepts. Peer-to-peer networks, right? Instead of everybody requesting information from just one person, because you are in a distributed environment, you can request for information from each other, right? From your other peers. Now this again adds to the decentralization factor. And then there are something called consensus algorithms. This is something, it's a slightly heavier topic in general, but just think of it as from there's not one single person who can change the way the network works, right? Everybody has to consent that this is how we will work, this is how we will function, right? Not, it won't be, the decision can't be taken just by one person, right? So that's how your consensus algorithms function. There's of course more to it. And to draw parallels to how this paper technology would actually look like, right, in the digital world. Because so far we have been talking about this hypothetical example of a village, people, etc. But none of this blockchain is not, none of this exists in the physical world. Everything exists in the digital world, right? The concept of Web3, the concept of Web3 ecosystem, and everything that happens in it is to enhance what is happening in the digital world, and or the physical world, whatever happens in the physical world, be able to give an identity to that in the digital world, right? So whenever we are talking about something, we have to think that is this solution, is it possible to digitize this, right? So blockchain exists or adds value and is more powerful when we are thinking from a digital perspective, right? So Of course, then let's look at the digital components of blockchain, right? So that list of transactions that we saw that are happening in the village, say every page, right? That list of transactions gets converted into something called a block, right? So in the network, like suppose in the village many people are doing a lot of transactions, what happens, how will Alex pick up the transactions? Alex will pick up some transactions, he will write in the ledger. Then when he will pick another set of transactions, he will write on another page. He will pick another set of transactions, he will write on another page. That's exactly what's happening in blockchain, right? We pick up a set of transactions, we write them in something called a block, right? We put these transactions together and we create a block out of it. That block will have a date and a time. That is, when were these transactions picked up, right? And each of the transactions themselves will have some details. Now, this is your block of the blockchain, right? So we have come to the first milestone. The second thing is consensus algorithms, right? So it's not just Alex who decides how the network works, right? Everybody together has a say on how the network functions, right? So that's where your consensus algorithms comes into picture. Then your cryptography, right? Your data itself is not visible directly, right? So your data is encrypted. Your transactional data is encrypted using cryptography, right? The blockchain itself, right? Now we come to the blockchain, the image that you see here. So the chronological order that Alex put up, right? Adding all of these put together is actually the blockchain, right? So the blockchain is nothing but a list of transactions that are happening on chain, right? That are happening in this particular network. You may hear the word on chain a lot. That's because that's referring to the network itself, right? But all of these list of transactions put together is nothing but the blockchain. It's also called the distributed ledger technology or the distributed ledger because this list is present with everybody who's a part of the network, right? Now you can see that the blocks, why is it called a blockchain? Because list of transactions put into a block, you get a block, then you put another list of transactions, you get a block. This block is connected to this block, right? And then you get another block, this block is connected to this block, right? And so on. So this is your blockchain, right? And you can find the transactions that are happening on public blockchains. There are different types of blockchains. We primarily need to focus on public because they are more popular, more easy to learn, and there are more opportunities. So the public blockchains, the transactions that are happening on the public blockchains can be easily searched using block explorers or other tools associated with that network, such as we can search news on online. I mean online, right? So why the analogy to news, right? Whenever something important happens, if we search something online, we get real time information of what is happening. That's what news is all about, right? And same thing happens on blockchain. The moment a transaction is successful, you can take the transaction ID and then check it out, and you will immediately get all the information that is happening as a part of the blockchain or that just happened, right? So it's real time. The update in the ledger, like I said, it's real time, right? Happens then and there. Now, just to summarize, like very quickly, blockchain can be thought of as a public ledger where all the transactions that are happening is visible to everybody and everybody has a copy of it. It is distributed. That means there's not just one person who has control on the decision making on how the network works, right? Sorry, that was consensus. Distributed, as in the ledger is distributed with everyone, right? Consensus, it is decentralized. That means there's no central authority who is doing the consent, who is saying that do this, do that. There's a group, there's a huge network that is taking the consensus based on some algorithms called consensus algorithms. And it is immutable. We call it immutable because you can't change the data or information easily on chain, right? Because it is protected by cryptography. So these are a couple of things that you need to just know about blockchain. There is a use cases video that I have that I want to play before that. Um, Before that, I want to show you this blockchain wheel of opportunities, right? Basically, this, I know this is a very like congested wheel, but the idea is that whichever domain you come from or whichever domain you want to go into, most importantly, right? you have opportunities in the Web3 space for that. So whether it is marketing, research, analyst, engineer, developer, legal consultant, designer, data scientist, right, HR, operations, whatever it is, you have jobs that are available in the blockchain space. You have jobs, you have side gigs, you have side hustles, you have projects where you can make money as well as learn about this technology, right? So there are just so many career opportunities that are available in this space, right? Let me just so the use cases video is a longer video. It's 9 minutes, so I don't just want to play this. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to post this over here. Okay. And I'm going to just check out the questions because I think that is going to be useful for folks to really understand. Before that, I'm going to just show you like what we plan for tomorrow's session. So we are going to, as this grant is supported by Ocean Protocol, but not just that, I want to introduce you to Ocean Protocol. This will be a very small session, no deep dive, nothing, just a basic introduction to what is Ocean Protocol and how it works. It's probably going to be for 10-15 minutes. What are the different grants that are there, different bounties, and the different other opportunities that you can start attempting? And of course, how can you get started, right? Different resources for learning, different opportunities to learn and earn, right? Couple of things that I will share in tomorrow's call. There are some hackathons that are coming up. In fact, there is one that is coming up end of Jan, or almost next week, right? Which is by the Indian Ocean community itself. And again, there we have a specific diversity bounty that we have kept. I will talk about that. So there are a lot of rewards that are there in this ecosystem. And of course, I will talk about how I can help you, how you can help each other, and how we can get started in this space. Right? So that's for tomorrow. And of course, a big, huge shout out to the Ocean DAO and the ocean ecosystem for supporting this project. As I mentioned in the earlier, I think not many folks had joined, but the idea is like, I have been wanting to start this group for a while now, but I always kind of thought whether I'll be able to give that time or no. But just this proposal has kind of, pushed me to.
Recording in progress.
Okay. I don't know whether I recorded or not. Okay, so let me stop.
Recording stopped.
So I have, let me take a look at the different questions. Let me, okay. Okay, yeah. So there are bunch of things like we are going to be posting. I mean, we'll keep posting in the Telegram group, of course, a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that are coming up. And two of the other communities that I wanted to give shout out to, one is the HerDAO, which was recently started in collaboration with Harmony Protocol. They have provided, they have done a great job at starting to work on this community and getting women in blockchain. So if you are interested, I would definitely suggest to join that Telegram group as well. I will post all of these links on our Telegram group so they don't get lost in the chats. They generally tend to get lost. Thanks, Hannah, for highlighting that. And that the HerDAO is doing some amazing job. They started off with providing scholarships to women to travel to Denver to attend the ETH Denver conference. And of course, there are a lot of amazing product lab and other super amazing sessions coming up. I will keep sharing this as well in our group. Then there is another community called the Bigger Pie, started by Bridget. They are also doing a great job in terms of keeping women engaged in the blockchain space, opportunities, etc. So I will share these as well. And you will see us collaborating with them for a lot of different events going forward, because I think I would say this again and again, it's not enough to have just one community. We should always cross collaborate and work together as much as possible. So that's what we are going to do going forward. If you are leading any women communities and would like to collaborate with with us, do a couple of sessions. We are completely open to that. So yeah, okay, awesome. So let's take a look at couple of questions. What is the difference between a block and a node, right? So a block is basically your set of okay, let's start with node because node is slightly more complicated. So nodes are like I said, nodes are mini computers. If you think of it, like they are. It could be a software, it could be a program based on the protocol that you're interacting with. But nodes are something that you run on your own system, right? Nodes are used for generating blocks. Nodes will perform some actions based on that protocols. How as every protocol works differently, right? So there are protocols that use a concept called mining, which you would have popularly heard for Bitcoin, right? Mining is nothing but solving a particular algorithm, right? So when you are running a node, right, you would be solving that particular problem. Once you solve that problem, you will be allowed to pick the transactions and create a block. Somebody has to create a block, right? That's how blocks are getting generated. Now, blocks themselves are nothing but a group of transactions, right? So a node is something that you run to generate these blocks. And the blocks themselves are smaller entities that are just consisting of these transactions, right? Now, for example, here is an interesting site called the Etherscan, right? This is a block explorer. This In this block explorer, you can see the different blocks. Like I said, it's public blockchain. So this is a public blockchain called Ethereum, which uses currently it's using mining. It's going to move out of this algorithm, move into another algorithm called proof of stake very soon. So you can see that these transactions, right? You If I click on a transaction, I can see the details of this transaction, like at what time did this transaction happen, within which block does it belong, right? Like I said, one block will consist several transactions. Let's take a quick look at this block, right? This block consists of 122 transactions, right? It was mined by, right? That means somebody produced this block, right? Now those who are producing these blocks are the ones who are running the node. They are performing some operations to produce these blocks, right? And then we can also see like what is the timestamp when this block was produced, just 1 minute ago, right? So multiple blocks keep getting produced. It has 122 transactions. We can click on this, and within this also we can see what are the different transactions. We can click on a transaction and see the details, like from whom was this transaction, to whom was this transaction. Like this is from this particular address to another address, and some tokens were transferred, right? USDT was transferred. And there is other parameters that we will learn in couple of more advanced sessions, like gas price, transaction fees, etc., right? So this is the difference between a block and a node, right? A node is used to produce these blocks. How can I get on a blockchain? That's one of the questions. So this is a very interesting question. So as you can see in this transaction, that there is a from address, right? Now this address acts as an account, right? So everybody who wants to transact on the blockchain can create an account for themselves. Creating an account for yourselves is free, right? And you can do so by using something called wallets, right? How we keep our money within our wallets, right? To transact on a network, we would need some kind of currency, right? Because the network is doing the computation for us, right? So in order to store those currencies, we'll create something called a wallet, right? We'll do that tomorrow. In tomorrow's session, we'll have some fun hands-on stuff, right? We'll create a wallet for ourselves tomorrow. And the address of that, we can create an account in a wallet. The address of the account is your account on blockchain, right? On a specific blockchain. So we can create multiple addresses on different blockchains. Everybody has different wallet plugins, etc., right? There is one. Is her DAO only for US? Let me clear this very quickly. No, it's a global DAO. It is open for everyone, right? all of the guilds, DAOs, women-oriented communities are mostly global in nature. Now, especially, we have gone virtual, right? However, if I come across something which is specific, I will share that for sure. So Manjri has a question. Can you explain transaction verification in the example? So transaction verification depends on the network algorithm, right? So when we have to verify a transaction, that means there needs to be some algorithm to ensure that it is not centralized, right? It has to be decentralized. So every protocol or every network will have their own transaction verification or consensus algorithm that runs underneath, right? So for Ethereum network, which is the network that we are seeing over here, Etherscan, they have they use a consensus algorithm called ET hash, right? And the verification happens in such a way that there is the miner or the one who's mining that particular transaction, that particular block, right? They will have to, the process of mining is to be able to solve a very difficult problem, say, let's say, mathematically complex problem. Once they solve that problem and they are able to get a particular hash, they get they are able to mine that particular block, right? And when and the nodes are the ones that are seeing, right, that blocks are being created. Now the simple proof of work, as we call that consensus algorithm, says that the chain having the maximum amount of blocks, right, is the one that is the correct one. So that is one of the ways of verifying, to put it very simply. But there are certain other algorithms that are underlying as well. I will share more details with you, or probably send a video which will show you how the underlying verification or validation mechanism for a couple of different protocols would work. Names and the events. Yeah, so sometimes the transactions don't go through due to multiple nodes didn't record the transaction. So sometimes the transactions may not go through. There might be a transaction failure, right? So you won't get the transaction back, but the transaction will be reverted, right? So like I said, in principle, like the Bitcoin algorithm, the proof of work algorithm, right? The high the the chain having the maximum number of blocks is considered the valid chain. So if I'm running a node and I see that there are suddenly two different chains that are coming to me, right? I will wait, right? If two different blocks come at the same timestamp, I will wait. Whichever block has got another block next to it, I will consider that as the valid one and I will go for that. And all of the transactions in this block will be reverted back, right? So you will get your currency back. Currency, can the same node be on different blockchains? I did not get this question. Um, yeah, so superior hardware definitely for the miner, right? For proof of work, it's all about really running your hardware and producing a hash. But you also need to solve the algorithm, right? So you need to keep running the compute and you need to be able to solve the algorithm. That's why you can see so many mining systems that are set up, like in China and all over the place, right? So they are trying to generate compute, right? So it's not luck, it is mathematical problem that you need to solve, right? And if you are able to solve it the fastest, then you get to pick, right? That's it. There's no luck over here. It's about compute, right? Okay, awesome. So, okay, yeah, I think we are almost okay. We are just about. Uh, what is the cost of setting up a minor node? It depends from protocol to protocol. For which protocol do you want to set up a node? Mining nodes are extremely expensive and compute heavy, so I do not suggest that. There is something else called validator node that you can set up for proof of stake based protocols. They are fairly cheap. In fact, there is one opportunity that I'm going to share right away after this protocol, which has a grant of 10 GNO tokens, right? Each GNO token is about $300 to $400 worth right now, I think so. And if you set up your own validator node, right, you will be eligible for that grant. So I will, yeah, $313 is one GNO token. There is a grant running where you can get 10 GNO tokens if you set up your own validator node, right? For another blockchain network called the XDAI network, which is now called Beacon Chain. So I will share more details on that program as well. Thank you, Padmaja, for that question. That reminded me of that. So yes, for validating or mining, the system has to be constantly on. That's the question. That was the question. And yes, it has to be constantly on. That's right. So yeah, I think super awesome questions. And we'll now close the session. Thanks everyone for joining. And I hope that going forward, many of you are able to take these project opportunities, form groups, and be able to kind of work on different projects, right? You can still be working full time and still take up some of these opportunities because they will not require your entire bandwidth, right? And I would also suggest to find people in the group, collaborate with them, work on these different bounties, right? As you get started with it, you can start with small incentives, small grants, and then go bigger, right? Not every project has to be a company that you're starting. It can be small efforts that you're putting in. There are a couple of huge grant programs that are coming up, which I would like folks to take up, form groups and take up. So please join, start thinking about like how you would want to contribute, right? And what is it that you would want to do? What are your skill sets right now, and what are the skill sets that you want to gain going forward, right? And it should be a combination of that, right? So yeah, that's that from my end. And yes. Yeah, if I'm going to share the Telegram group link once again for folks who joined late or missed out. Let me try to find that. And I'm also going to be sharing a couple of resources coming soon, right? So that's going to be awesome. And yeah, let's get this work going, everyone. Let's aim to hit at least $50,000 of bounties between us in our group, right? We form small groups. We start working on small projects. We are here each other to help us, to mentor each other, and let's just do this. All right. Okay. Thanks, everyone. And I'll see you all on Telegram if you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining. Right.
An awesome session.
Please join our session tomorrow as well, since we'll be talking about grants and different opportunities. And if you see something that you can pick up right away, just DM, right? And yeah, there are no geography restrictions for anything. Anyone can work on these anytime with anybody. I would, in fact, suggest forming, intercontinental or interstate teams and work together, right? So, yeah.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow. Done. Good night.
See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.